Okay, and we are live. Welcome to the Killer Be Killed podcast with Damian and Josh, the most unlistened to podcast on the interwebs. Thank you all for joining us, or thank you too for joining us. Josh, again, thanks for filling in last week. If you saw any of my Facebook stuff, you notice a friend of mine passed away, Jack and Sarah, who is a friend of mine, really close. He's like a few years older than me. He's really like good friends with my older brother. Knew him from wrestling. Jack was a 1981 state champ, and then then wrestled a little bit for Penn State, and actually walked on for Penn State football and participated in the blue and white game. Big dude, 188 pounds in high school, 6'4", big guy, lived hard, very, very, very successful. His son is best friends with my son. So we hung out and I was good friends with him. I was friends with him. But he was more, it's more like my son's best friend's dad, and his son. Hey Clayton, thanks for joining us, brother. And Jack Jr., he plays defensive end for Bucknell. He was a walk-on. Now he's starting, and it's a small D1 program, Patriot League. That's what I played in college. Lehigh is in their league. Wind up starting now and got a scholarship. So, I mean, the kid just, is fantastic and grinds and really such a good kid. And I did send, him a note. I'll share it with you because it's a testament to him. It's like, as a parent, you raise your kid and, your kids are only going to listen to you so much. I mean, especially when they hit a certain age, especially when they hit school, like if they're in school or they're out in the world, as they should question you, because that's how the process happens. A great quote that I heard the other day, it's like, we raise them, we raise something that we can't live without to live without us. I mean, and as a parent, that's like, that's the ultimate kind of, irony, if you will, because, again, your kids will look at you, especially as they get older and they're moving out, they're on their own, like, why do you stalk us? I'm like, because I'm your parent and I'm going to stalk you. And this is like, there's no other, I'm like, it was funny. What was the quote? Oh, my kids are talking like, oh my God, what do you guys talk about us? I'm like, yeah, that is the main reason of being a parent, is to talk about you.
Yeah.
So you hope, right, when your kid goes out and they're doing activities, they're doing martial arts, they're doing sports, you're hoping that they, surround themselves with people that reflect at least your values on some level.
Yeah.
And Jack Jr., big kid, I affectionately call him, he's tough as nails. I think, right now, I guess Jack's probably around 6'2", 235. Just,
that's a big human.
Yeah. And in amazing shape.
Yeah.
So I affectionately call him the gun.
Nice.
Because when I'm like, Damian, my son will be like, hey, we're going to such and such. And I'm like, you taking the gun with you? It's like, yeah, the gun's coming. I'm like, okay, you can go. But, so I said to him, I'm like, look, I go, as a parent, you can only do so much. So you hope at some point he finds people that reflect some of the core values and morals that you have as a parent, so they get echoed, but from another direction that they actually listen to.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys, if not the guy. So he's definitely responsible for my son's he helped with my son's work ethic, definitely with fitness, and Bucknell's a very academic, competitive school. Jack works really hard to stay on the dean's list, so it all kind of, they all helped each other. And then there's another buddy in their group, Luke, I remember Mike's son, who kind of, got pulled along with that. So, and then there's another kid that goes to Tampa, Mikey Stone, who, I don't say their names because, they're out there and they're great people. They all kind of like these friends just kind of like started pulling themselves along, and then the group kind of grew out from there. So you have like a group of kids who are, academic, they're motivated, not all of them, they're higher in different levels, and they all bring different things to the table. But as a parent, that's what you want. And, Jack Sr. raised like a really, really great kid. And, he died. He's got to be like 62. He's my brother's age. My brother turns 63 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Phil. And, you're like, yeah, my dad died at 66. My dad, like Big Jack, look, I wasn't with him from a day to day, but understand he's a really big guy. Didn't really, he lived hard. Let's put it that way. Similar to my father, who died at 66, but at least like my dad, knowing that my dad had like 6 stents in his heart.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, was obviously, was very overweight. And my thing with him, but I had a moment with him when my dad passed. I was like 37. I had a family, kids, businesses. I wasn't a junior in college. But I have 2 friends that happened to exactly. So it's like, the best way I could describe, dealing with this loss is that, it's like losing, because, it's like, there's no getting over this. It's just, you learn to live. It's like losing a limb, right? Yeah. It's like, I had a leg. I learned to live without the leg, but every once in a while I go to use the leg, and shit, I don't have a leg. So instead, I'm like, it's going to be very, very hard. I'm like, look, everybody deals with shit differently. I just, where you're like there's gonna be a lot of times, dude, it was like with my dad. It was like I missed him to share like something with him. Like, oh, he would love to hear this. And then you go, and then you're like, yeah, shit. But again, I wasn't, I already had other responsibilities. I had a family. I'm like, okay, I gotta.
Yeah, but it's nice, like that father figure, right? It's, somebody you can share your triumphs and your failures with, right?
Yeah. And he's got a lot of people in his life. He's got his uncle, he's got my brother, he's got me, he's got, it ain't your dad.
It's not the same.
No. And, I think a lot of times if anyone's dealing with this, that, I think that's what people want. They just want to know the truth about what they're up against and, what their experience is going to be moving forward. And it's like, this is a hole that's not going to be replaced. And, this is what it is. Clayton Poach, my man died 2 weeks before my graduation, my second college degree. It sucks. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm like, there's so much of like, oh man, especially when you're going through milestones, weddings, kids, with us, at least my dad saw me get married. He saw my son be born. I was very lucky. So my buddy Heath died when he, again, these guys are juniors in college. My next door neighbor, same thing. It's a sophomore. You're like, yeah, gonna miss everything. Especially with Jack and his dad, they were really close. Really close. So, dad was at every game. Again, bigger than life dude. I was on the fire department with him. Just like fun to be around. Um, so he was like, so when I was a kid, there's a wrestling powerhouse here, Pascack Hills in northern Jersey in the 70s and the 80s. That was insane. I mean, talking about multiple state champs on the teams. And it would look like, so is another town, Phillipsburg. It looked like in the state finals, it looked like a dual meet. There's like at least like 6 or 7 kids from like either side wrestling on that. So, and the coach from that was Bucky Rehan, who's still alive. I'm still friends with. I coached with some junior wrestling with him. I used to go to his camps. Great dude. Really, fantastic guy. And Jack and his brother Frank were like, in my generation, those were the first guys that were like, they grew up in a different town. So they wound up like going to Pascack Hills, which was like 5 towns over from where they actually grew up. They had another address and they were staying in town. And that was like the first, like, quote unquote, like athletic. I don't want to use the term scandal, but it was like, everyone's like, hey, they don't live in that town. And, you can pay tuition and go wherever you want. So let's put it that way. Whether, I don't know, so let's leave it there. But, it's so, but it wasn't, that's the first time I've heard of it. But to be honest, there's a book called, City of Champions, and it's about the New Jersey town of Garfield, coincidentally, where Jack is from. And this was back in like the 1920s, I want to say, where the high school team was this national powerhouse, and they wound up recruiting guys. I mean, they were like literally paying kids to go there. So it wasn't anything, this has been going on forever, people. So you always think about, these guys are better than us. It's been going on forever. And, this little team from Garfield wound up winning the quote unquote national championship. But yeah, so that was my first, there you are, Josh. That was my first, when I first heard of Jack. And then later, from wrestling, because he's around my brother's age, they became friends. And, I kind of knew him on and off, especially because like I had this connection to Pascack Hills because they had one of the only local wrestling camps that we would do in the summer. So, you just knew of him, and then I knew him. And then later, his son became one of my son's best friends. So yeah, that happened on coincidentally Columbus Day, which is the same day my father died, and also my father-in-law died a year later. So ask me about Italians dying on Columbus Day, taking a journey. Who knows? But that's what happened. Josh, you're either very still or your screen froze. So on that note, let's get into some.
I don't know what's going on with my camera. Sorry, guys.
Right. Let's get into some hate mail.
Hey, before we do that though, did you watch that comedian set I sent you?
I did, and it was funny. Yeah, but again,
when it got to the point karate part, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Damian's gonna love this."
It was which was great when he's going in thinking it's an MMA fight. And it's point karate, and he's gonna kick ass, of course. Yeah, what was that comedian's name again?
I'd have to look it back up. I'm not sure.
All right, yeah, we should give him a shout out. But yeah, definitely, it's funny because he's like got like the face tattoos and stuff like that. Not the voice I would expect to hear. Like that dude, like he should be like. Take away the face tattoos, it looks like he should be at brunch.
Well, it's funny because he's like, I joined this gang, but I'm like not the gang type.
Right.
Let me see if I can find it for you here.
But yeah,
just so people can look him up. He's so funny.
And I'm like, yeah, the tattoos make sense, but the rest of them didn't look like any of the dudes I knew. I was like, it was just really weird to
It was funny.
to kind of watch that, which is, yeah, but he was freaking good.
All right. His name is Shane Smith.
Shane Smith. Yeah, check him out. It's like, what is it? Karate Kick Me Out.
Yeah. So his this set is called Why I'm Banned from Karate.
It's good. It's a set. It's about 50 minutes. It's a full.
It's like 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a full set.
Yeah.
So yeah. And now I got to start listening to his other stuff. But yeah, that was funny. I mean, when you said that, it hit me at a good spot. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I watched it right after the podcast, and I was like, Damian needs this.
Yes, I do.
So,
oh shit. So let me just get into all right, let's get to some hate mail. All right, so okay. So this is on the headbutting section. So let me just read this. We'll get into it. I don't think this is actually hate mail, but I do want to talk about this. I reversed headbutted someone in the mouth. I'm a UPS driver, and my first year, I was in a bad part of the city. Number of dudes walked up, but I didn't notice anything, but I seen them. Stepped out to deliver an envelope, and only seen two of the three on my right. Third was behind my truck and wrapped me up from behind. A dude grabs my arms from behind, so I guess that's the same dude, and the other one was coming for me. So we got bear hug from behind, I'm guessing, and one guy was coming in to clean him. I pulled forward. I could smell his shitty breath and pulled forward once more, and then immediately ran my head back and almost KO'd myself His mouth, nose, all caved in. It felt nasty. I understand that. By the time I get away from the dude, I yank out my Gerber quick blade and get into a stance, all fired up. They decided to disengage, and I hop back in my truck. Went around the block realizing I didn't deliver my envelope. Found it as I came back, and also seen the thickest blood trail lead to some random porch with a puddle on it. Stay aware, stay safe, everyone. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of these things. To be honest, that sounds like legit. I'm like, that's like, yeah. Usually, so when you're talking about, what happened here is that you've got you get targeted. There's a predator prey, paradigm that we was talking about. And, they come in with a plan, right? We're going to roll this guy. First of all, as if you're delivering packages, you don't know what you're delivering. I heard a joke years ago that it's like, hey, yeah, my FedEx guy doesn't know he's my drug dealer. Right. So,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, shit gets sent in the mail and all the time. So if you're delivering to a trap house, there's a chance that people are casing that joint and they know, it ain't Amazon that's coming in there. So, you're going to these places and doing this stuff. Yeah, that's what you're up against. I mean, here, dude, yeah, he almost, got KO'd, but I mean, it's a win, right? I'm like, shit. Especially when they didn't, you don't get any verbal commands, or like, we're like, oh, give me the envelope or whatever. You just get assaulted. You got to fight. There's no bullshit about it. They're planning on him rolling over. They didn't. When he said it felt nasty, that's a legit thing.
Yeah.
You hit someone and you feel parts like fall away. Yeah, it's like unnatural, and it to normal people, you get a little like sick to your stomach, to be honest. So yeah, again, I mean, I appreciate, when people share these things. Hopefully it was several years ago. Obviously, there's probably nothing going to become of it. I generally don't, obviously we like to hear these, stories of success, but, sharing things on, if you do something, not necessarily for this incident, but if you do something in the future, I caution, just please be careful, because, if a diligent prosecutor is looking to establish a history of violence, they're going to go through all your social media.
Which comes back to like so many things we see people post, and it's like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. I just shoot them.
Yeah.
Bro. What are you doing? Why would you even say that?
It's crazy.
I mean, even if you don't actually shoot somebody, what if you get a domestic dispute? Right? What if you get in a physical altercation? They're establishing a history of violence, that you're premeditating, that you fantasize about this.
Yep.
Any of this stuff can be twisted. So please, you could DM us. I won't, this was a post on YouTube. So please, people, I mean, look, I appreciate it, but, let's, okay. So this one was to the choke strangle. So I'm showing these techniques, using a club as a strangle. So first off, everyone, it's literally just a technique of something you can do with a club. It is not the best thing to do with the club. It is not, the only thing to do with a club. It is just a technique with a club as a strangle. That's it. I don't know what to tell you. So this is Eric. In what state is that legal? Enjoy your prison time. My response? Eric, white belt level comment. If you're facing an enemy who is willing to do whatever it takes, you refuse to do the same, you will lose. Again, by the way, this is literally legal in every state if you're in the process of defending yourself legally. After all, you can use a firearm to defend yourself. And I would submit that this would be a lot easier to defend than a firearm, which is the point. So the biggest misconception here is that people think techniques are illegal. Like techniques are what, oh, you can't do that. That's an illegal move. There are no illegal moves anywhere. Zero. There's no law that says you can't do a rear naked choke. Now, there's policies in police departments that say this is something we don't teach. This is something that they can't use. Yeah, okay. You're a citizen.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to, the legal escalation of force, right? Obviously, if you just walk up on somebody using a club and strangle them, you're going to jail.
Yeah, right. Just the same as if you went up and shot somebody.
Exactly. But if you're using it in legitimate self-defense, at that point in time, it doesn't really matter.
It does not matter at all.
In fact, you probably get away easier with the fact that you used a club as a strangle than if you pulled your gun and shot somebody.
Yes, because the always argument's going to be, well, you could have ran away.
You could have ran away, or you could have, not used a lethal weapon. A club's, while it's a weapon, is it technically a lethal weapon? I don't know.
Right. It can be used in a lethal manner, but it's more of it's a mechanical weapon. So you're going to have a lot easier time explaining this, saying that
than a knife or a gun.
Yeah. But again, you get like this whole mindset, of people that are like, well, you're automatically restricting yourself based on really
Yeah, I mean, if Eric's only going
Rumor.
to use what he deems is legal, I wonder what he thinks is actually legal.
Hands, I would imagine, or possibly a firearm. You know, he's
Pepper
got
spray,
that.
maybe? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. But again, what if you don't have that? What if you're in this situation, right? I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're not
I mean,
talking
in
about
the club doesn't have to be like a baton. It could be a stick you find, you know?
the an umbrella. You know, it could be your
Whatever, a
cane. It
cane.
could be your cane.
This goes back to the guy being like, who carries umbrellas?
Right. I don't know. A lot of people are like, shit, you can figure out, you could have a walking stick. Right?
Clayton says the club is considered an intermediate force weapon. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Clayton. Great point. Yes. So it's not, it's not illegal. It's what's illegal is the means and basically the method, the situation in which you've deployed it. Like to your point, Josh, you walk up to somebody, just strangle them with a club. Yeah, you're gonna have some problems. Right.
Same thing if you did rear naked choke somebody.
Right. Clayton's great point. 9-iron golf club. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, here we go.
So many things.
Name sticks that you find every day. Right?
Exactly.
So, do this all day. So but again, it's
I like you labeled this a white belt comment, because the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, this is that white belt who showed up to like the McDojo, and Rex Kwon Do's like, I wear these parachute pants so that people know it's coming for them.
Right. Right.
And it's like, this guy's like, you can't use this club because you'll go to jail. You're now a lethal weapon.
Right. And he's yelling. I see him yelling at his screen. Like, dude, no. And I feel, again, I mean, this is partially what we're up against, because you've got when you get people that are like, it's like when you're self-censoring, posting on YouTube, right? You're like, I can't do this because of this and that. No, I mean, you're self-censoring in self-defense, where you're thinking, well, I'll go to jail for this. And as soon as you do that, you're already like tying a hand behind your back.
Yeah.
So the real thing is to just try to avoid an altercation.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you are literally like avoiding it unless you see somebody getting attacked that you can intervene. And this is a way you could do. You could, if somebody was beating on someone, let's say, grown man attacking a teenage girl, and you came up and cracked him in the back of the head with a club, I don't think there's a court in the land that would really convict you.
I'd be for jury, but definitely on that one.
Yeah. So, you're like, look, I saw this. I wanted to stop. I thought, well, why didn't you, dude? The girl looked like he was killing her. So, I mean, and this is also, is there going to be some, defense involved depending on what state you're in? Yeah, probably.
For sure.
That's a shitty thing. And that's a shame, because, you've got, it prevents people from actually protecting one another, and it emboldens a criminal. I mean, I still get infuriated that any weapon for self-defense, it could be quote unquote illegal just for carrying it.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It's nuts. I mean, my daughter is like, can't carry a boot knife. Why? Because in case she gets, someone's trying to rape her and she starts stabbing the shit out of that. I'm like, what? Why can't you carry a boot knife? Why can't you carry a neck knife? Why in some places you can't carry pepper spray? Why can't you carry a taser? Why can't you carry, let's keep going on and on and on. Right? So why can't you have brass knuckles? If you use if you use any of these things in a commission of a crime, you should be held
always
accountable.
A problem. Yeah, always a problem.
Right? I mean, and the laws already exist, but the criminals do it constantly because they're criminals. Yet, you know, you have all these laws in effect that or restrictions.
It goes back to body armor, right? You know, everybody's like, well, what do you need body armor for? And it's like, well, to protect yourself. And if you're using it in the commission of a crime, it already makes it a worse crime.
Yeah. I mean, who are the victims of, you know, who are the victims of, you know, active shooters? Now they're active violence, which I'm not opposed to active violence. I just got this memo today from the state of New Jersey. Because it could be a knife, it could be a vehicle. You know, I'm cool with that. I definitely want to take shooter, you know, out of that, you know, vernacular, if you will.
I mean, yeah, like give me active violence as an umbrella, and then let's subcategorize that, right?
Right.
How many of that's shootings? How many of that's stabbings? How many of that's, you know, whatever, right?
Yes, agreed. Yeah, and you know, it's like I want to know, and I always want to know, you know, what caliber weapon was used. You know, I want to know those things. I don't care about the race. I don't care about LGBTQ. I fucking don't, because anyone who commits these things is broken. It's a larger umbrella of, you know, I had this conversation with, I just out in California, my daughter and our boyfriend, of course, my wife. And, you know, we had a great spirited conversation. And I'm like, look, when it comes to this, I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't, you know, yeah, we shouldn't look at, you know, specific groups as the targets, but I go, you have to look at, you know, what's, you know, there's a psychological component to it. And if I could like broad picture this, like, you know, they're looking, it seems like if you look across a whole broad band of it, it's like both sides. I mean, even though recently there have been some LGBTQ, but you got to look historically, you know, because we also had two former Marines that were stationed in in Bragg at around the same. Well, not Bragg. Yeah, they were Bragg.
With their Marines, they wouldn't have been Bragg.
They would have been Bragg. Yeah, no. Yeah, correct. Disregard. I think they're in the I think they were in the military. They were in the Army, and they were in Bragg, right? Well, the guy who did the Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, was he? Was he?
I don't remember. I think he was Marine. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, so they weren't in Bragg. I don't think, but they were.
But probably Lejeune.
Yeah, they were both in the Marines around the same time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, you know, these, you know, look, I said it simply. I'm like, look, if I were to undermine the top two biggest things that make this country great, you know, well, let's say first two, freedom of speech, right to bear arms, right? So how do we, you know, undermine free speech? Oh, hate speech, right? So, you know, it's like, what's hate speech? Who says what hate speech is? Hate speech is something that makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, welcome to free speech, right?
Yeah.
Hate speech is free speech, period. I don't need to agree with you. If I think you're a moron, say whatever you're going to say. We'll debate it and talk about it and throw it out there, period. Okay. Right to bear arms. How do we generate more people who are against the Second Amendment? Well, let's kill some people. It's like the old, you know, the old adage with, you know, every terrorist I kill, I create 10 more. So every person that gets wounded or killed in an active shooter attack, you create thousands more. Thousands more people about gun control, thousands more people. So it's really, really simple to do that. It's like, how do we, you know, start messing with freedom of religion and shit? Like, it's like, yeah, just start ascribing certain behaviors to certain religions. You know, like, look, I'm like, I think, you know, what's happening. The problem is what we have to like really get the separate. Now, this is where the separation of church and state comes in, because you have like, let's face it, it's called what it is, Sharia law, right? Religion-based law. It's unconstitutional.
Well, I don't even like here in Texas, Governor, forget his name. I forget my own governor's name. Sorry, guys. What's up?
Is it Abbott? I want to say.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, Governor
okay.
Abbott.
He is not.
the last few months ago, he made it so that the schools have to display the 10 commandments. Now, look, I'm a Christian, but I don't think the schools should be displaying anything religious, right?
I agree.
Separation of church and state, you know?
Right.
I remember my brother's a little bit left leaning, and he was just like, "What do you think about this?" And I'm like, "I don't agree with it. You know, like that shouldn't be a thing."
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I just, and they're like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, look, don't get me wrong. If you lived your life according to the 10 commandments, you're probably going to be a pretty good person. Right? Sounds simple, but yeah, they shouldn't be in school. You know, I get it. You know, that's, you know, no one's, and they shouldn't. And then what's happening? Look what's happening in the UK. They don't have the same
UK
laws.
is unreal.
They don't have the same laws that we do. I think like 12,000 people have been locked up this year for shit they posted on Facebook. Just when they mention grooming, when they mention, you know, Muslims, and they mention, you know, and they've got these hate speech laws in effect where you've got, you know, the mayor of London's Muslim. You've got religion infiltrating government, and that's what we're seeing, right? So, you know, you know, guys are, you know, they weren't allowed in a football game. Sorry, soccer, because you know they were Jewish, and there were a lot of Muslims at the game, and they feared for their safety, and they can't protect them. And they're like, yeah, holy crap. Right?
Yeah,
like,
that's a problem.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, you've got, you know, watch what's going to happen in Dearborn, Michigan.
What's already happening there.
Right. I mean, if you take any position, whether you're, you know, volunteer, firefighter, office of emergency management, a cop, you know, somebody who's on the school board, somebody who's on the council, mayor, everybody, the one thing you swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. That is it, first and foremost. Obviously, in the military, goes without saying. But they're not. So when do we start enforcing that? We have congressmen, congresswomen who have allegiance to other countries.
We have congressmen and congresswomen who have said that our Constitution is old and outdated and should be completely abolished.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah. Huge. And that's what you're watching this, you know, again, that Yuri Bezmenov from the 80s, when he's talking about how to, dude, I can't recommend that enough.
We might have to just show it one time. We'll just like watch it one time.
I said
it's not very long.
We'll do it next time. It's not long. So yeah, I'm like, you're watching this, and this was like from the mid 80s, and you're like, holy shit. And he's just telling you this.
Yeah.
When you go, it's like if somebody tells you something, you know, that they're gonna do, you know, if I tell you I'm gonna punch you in the face, believe it. You know, like if they're gonna do something, like, oh no, that's too far-fetched. It's happening.
Yeah. It's been happening. In the 80s, you could kind of see it a little bit, but over the last 30 years, you're like, oh my gosh. 40 years now almost, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're there. We are there. So
yeah.
All right. So hold on, move the trash. I'm gonna see if I want to do okay, this is a Bodyguard one. Okay, so William talks about, he comments on a Bodyguard ad. He goes, and he just quotes like the NIJ standard, which is even if a bullet does not penetrate the plate, NIJ sets a maximum backface of trauma limit of 44 millimeters, which is 1.7 inches. Think of that to your sternum of the heart. During testing, a plate fails if the impact causes an indentation of the backing material deeper than this limit, which could cause serious internal injury to the wearer. Yeah, spalling with steel plates. So I'm like, my response is like, yeah, that's correct. So, you know, I don't know. I guess William just wanted to kind of like
Maybe he's indicating you don't have the proper coding, so therefore your stuff doesn't actually meet NIJ standard. I don't know.
But when we do, so the steel plates are spall coated. He's also, and the polyethylene plates are polyethylene, so they just absorb it. There's no spalling involved. Plus, you have to consider he's leaving out the actual carrier itself. If you have a shit carrier and a steel plate, shit, then Clayton, what's the point? The point is that William wants to know that he could cut and paste the NIJ standard and put it in a post.
Yeah, we're all confused by this.
That's the point of this. So, you get this too. So when people are arguing with you, you're one of them. I'm like, that's correct. What's your point? Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. So, you got guys that knowledge for the sake of knowledge, but not even. It's like reminds me of the owl in Winnie the Pooh. Just like spouting off facts. And they're like, hey, thanks, man. No problem. Next. Yeah. So, I just, you get like I don't know if this is dated, but you're looking at reminds you of like Cliff Clavin, from Cheers, just spouting off random facts at the bar. So wait, the 3 decades of sculpted is unique blends of isometric. Hold on. I don't know. I'm talking about that one. This is Eric. And I think let me just see what this one is. Okay. So this is
oh yeah. So good.
So yeah, I got Neil Braniff, who's one of our elite members, best system ever. And you got Nick George here. I'm amazed people still listen to this. It takes years of training on a qualified instructor to master self-defense techniques. Not true at all. Talk to Melissa Bruin, but I get it. You want to collect high monthly fees for years. So, and that's my point with this shit. You're like, so Melissa Bruin, if you don't know, we started like True Tales of Self-Defense, and I started with that. I changed her name on there because I tried to get in touch with her, even though she was public for a while. I changed her name, and that's fine. But she was assaulted by a much bigger guy, stuck a thumb in his eye, got up, kneed him in the nuts, took off. No training whatsoever. This is the trap that people sell. First, give me a qualified instructor. I can throw a rock. I'm sorry, not even throw a rock. I could drive around to probably every dojo and karate school in the area, and they will be teaching the same specific defense bullshit when it comes to self-defense. I guarantee it. So there's what's a qualified instructor? There's qualified BJJ instructors. There's qualified judo instructors. There's qualified karate instructors.
But I like too how he used the word qualified and not even certified. You can be qualified and not still be certified, but if you're certified, you're definitely qualified, right?
Right. Right. Semantics. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that, right? I'm like, okay. But this is the same old thing. Oh, you gotta fucking see somebody. Usually by somebody who's got a school that's threatened because people are going to come in like, oh wow, if I really just pay attention, and then I'm probably eliminating a lot of the potential threats. Oh, what do you mean? If I just start training, takes years of training under. Yeah, okay, great point, Clayton. Takes years of training under a qualified instructor to master the art of virtually any system. Self-defense is totally different animal altogether. Exactly. And it's interesting because after MMA, the last bastion of martial arts was self-defense, right? Because it's very easy to say, well, yeah, but that's not self-defense. They're not wrong. But once you take that away from them, they don't have anything unless you're teaching something. What he should say is you're right. I can teach you something in 10 seconds that can save your life right now. That's the answer. I'm like, you're not going to beat up everybody in the world. There's nobody. The toughest guy today is not the toughest guy 10 minutes from now. So, it's not that, but you can give someone skills in a very short amount of time that they can become a hard target and do enough to escape and survive. I said, I go back, we're talking about Melissa. I mean, dude, bigger dude on top of her, took her to the ground, stuck his thumb in his eye, got up. She just had a will to survive and escape. And he wound up trying to grab her again. She drove her knee home, fucking folded him, and took off. And they're like, yeah, no shit. That's what it is. So when you're sitting there, oh, you need to fucking spar. It's not that. You're not getting into a sparring match, people. So
I love when people who do martial arts like come to the light, so to speak. They have that aha moment. I've started to get my, I've talked about this. I've started to get my kids to do it, right, with their BJJ. Where I start pointing out some things about their self-defense training. And they start, oh, that is weird. Okay, let me think about that some more. And I forget what it was. I was having a conversation with one of my kids like last week, and we were talking about this, about how like, martial arts is not self-defense. And my kids were like, yeah, it's definitely not self-defense. It's totally different.
Right. But your martial arts can help your self-defense a lot.
Right. And that's what I told them. I was like, look, can you use these things that you're learning in self-defense? Absolutely. Yes. But core self-defense is not martial arts.
Yeah. And look, they're getting tougher. They're getting in shape. They're getting positioned inoculation where they're like, somebody's on top of them. They're not going to freak out, and they're going to drive their thumb in their freaking eye. They're going to bite them. They're going to create space, and then they're going to shrimp and kick out. And absolutely. But exactly. It's like, it's not like, one definitely enhances, but doesn't replace. And that's what I think, again, obviously we're dealing with somebody who's threatened. That is like, oh, I've seen these things before. Like, yeah, have you done them? Do you know what you're talking about?
This is somebody who's either an instructor themselves or somebody who is a student and is like, man, my instructor is so good. Like, it's going to take me forever to be that good. You know what I mean? Right. And you're just like, you've been sold the lie, bro.
That model in martial arts always bothered me, where the instructor is the best guy in the room. The instructor, it's you got to look at
really good instructors, right? And we've talked about this.
Yeah,
we've talked about this. How being an instructor is its own skill set, right? Being a good coach, a good teacher is its own skill set. Being a good instructor means making your students better than you could ever be.
Yes. And making
finding the people who have the ability to be the best, right? Olympic athletes, professional athletes have their own coaches, have their own instructors, yet they're not Olympic athletes. They're not, the ones performing professionally, right? Maybe they're retired. Maybe they're just really good trainers,
Right. Yeah. And that's what, you want to, as a good coach, you want to shorten the learning curve and get in there faster and better. And before you did. Martial arts has always got to be like, sensei's like, it's like your Palme and like Kill Bill, right?
Like Shane Smith in his comedic act. I'm facing the sensei.
Right. Like, dude, I said, like the funniest story. Like, dude, I've had professional football players come in and work out. I had a dude that all he did was hang like sheetrock all day. And he's from like, Uzbekistan or some shit. I'm like, this is a serious this is a serious dude.
And the guy literally just picks you up and slams you. And you're like, holy crap.
Like, oh, yeah, look at that. I'm like, holy shit. So I'm like, okay. So, it's easy.
That reminds me of a story. Sorry. I was giving a class, and one of the kids in the class he's like 6'2", like 350, like just this monstrously big person, right?
Right.
And I'm like, and one of the things I like to do when I'm teaching, getting held from the back, because we talk about, just like that dude in the story earlier, about how when somebody grabs you, only one or two things is happening. You're getting chucked, or they're holding you for somebody else to come to you, right?
Right.
And so like one of the things I like to do is I actually like to pick people up so they can see what it feels like to get picked up, right? If they're not used to it. And so this guy goes, "You're not picking me up." And I was like, "You want to bet?" And he goes, "There's no way you're picking me up." He's like twice as my size. And I'm like, "Look, get ready, okay, and do what I told you to do." And he's like, "All right, whatever." And I picked him up, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I set him back down, and I'm like, "That is not what I told you to do."
Exactly.
He's like, "You actually picked me up," and I'm like, "Yes, I told you I was going to. Now I'm going to do it again."
Dude, have you met anyone who's ever wrestled or judo or anything before? You know what I mean?
Like knowing how to pick somebody up is a skill.
So a story it reminds me of a story of my buddy who wrestled for Michigan, and there's a lineman who played for the Giants, Jumbo Elliott. My buddy wrestled like 142. Let's be honest, when he wasn't on weight, he was like 170. So they're all in the athletic dorms and they're fucking around. And Elliott's like, "Oh, you can't fucking." And now my buddy is like shorter than me. He's like 5'6", 5'4", right? 5'5". So whatever. He's like, "Okay." Guy freaking, I'm sorry, I said his name. Shit. So he took him down, got on top of him, and it was holding him down. Jumbo Elliott isn't called Jumbo for nothing. He was like a 300 pounder. And he's holding him down. And he's like crying, frustrated. I'm like, "Yeah, dude." I go, somebody knows how to like legit like wrestle. I go, and you don't, and you want to wrestle him? You got a problem. This is like, holy crap. And that was funny. He's like, "Yeah, Jumbo Elliott was crying." I'm like, holy shit. So, all right. So, last thing I want to talk about. Did you hear what happened with the Cowboy Cerrone story?
I did not.
All right. He describes what happened. He doesn't actually have what's on film that happened. But again, if you don't know who Cowboy Cerrone is, he's a badass. He's a former UFC champ. Again, he's a dude. So there's that. But he asked a question, and yeah, that's okay. So you can see that. All right, here we go. Hold on, wait.
Morning. On today's episode of Fuck Around and Find Out, stoplight sparring session. I just think there needs to be repercussions for people that run their mouth in their trucks and flip you off and get all crazy and wild. But I just want to know, I live in a small town out in the country, and I want to know, is the general census with everybody else, when you throw your car into park and open your door, that is signing on the dotted line, correct? For everybody out there. So don't think when I throw my car in park and open the door that there's more to be said out in the situation, right? Just curious what everyone else thinks. I think that you should have to answer for what you say, being on the computer, on the phone, in your truck. When you want to get wild and you want to get crazy, you should have to pay for the consequences that your mouth gets your ass in trouble. So fuck around and find out. I had a crazy guy driving wild, making gestures, going crazy. When we finally reached the light, I simply rolled my window down and I said, "What are you trying to do?" The only words I exchanged with the guy. He throws his car in park, opens his door. That to me is signing on the dotted line. Just curious what everybody else thinks. Let me know in the comments. I think you should have to put your name, number, and address down when you make shitty comments, and I think you should have to pay for actions you make in a car. I don't need to explain what else happens in the story. I'm sure many of you could elaborate in your mind what goes on, but I just think it might be wise for people to just shut the fuck up in your car.
Okay. So what happened? Obviously, there's a road rage incident, and some guy got into it and challenged him. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, I can't count how many times I probably felt like this in my life. So how he's feeling, yeah, I get it. but he's asking if somebody pulls it, somebody yells at you, pulls their car and park and opens their door. Is that?
Yeah, that's saying that there's no more need to talk, right? It's go time.
It's go time.
Which he's not. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Now, look, I would probably just drive.
My heart says yes.
I would probably just drive away if that happened, right? That's the smarter thing to do. Okay. But let's say I can't drive. Let's say I'm like locked in. Somebody's behind me. Somebody's
I was going to say
in front of me. Right. Right.
If I've got cars in front of me and somebody, I'm going to get to a defensible position.
Right.
Right. But
now can you roll your window up and maybe be like, oh, and see what happens? Sure. But you're putting yourself in a position of disadvantage, right?
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Right. So I'm not going to fight sitting down.
Right.
What I will do is put my car in park, get out of my fucking car. Right. If I can't drive away, there's a light, whatever.
This is a great situation where pepper spray does wonders.
Amazing. Again, who in their right mind? I mean, listen, people, it's just driving. Get the fuck over it. Right. I'm like, I don't care. Stop.
This actually goes really well with the video that I reviewed last week about the off-duty cop who, people were him and the other dude were driving like idiots. They ended up getting a very small wreck. He gets out of the car and gets pistol whipped, and then he's off-duty cop, so he has his gun, and then he ends up killing the dude. Right. And I'm like, man, all this could have been completely avoided if, both parties had decided just not to be a jackass, or even one party had decided not to be a jackass.
Right. So if you view every situation that, okay, and listen, I'm going to say this just as logically and tactically as possible. That sounded like some asshole. If you view every situation as like, I could kill this person. All right. How would you approach it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm not even thinking about me dying, which, to be honest, I think about constantly. I got this whole samurai thing happening in my head. So there's that. So, I prepare and I think about it. I meditate on it frequently. So there's that. But I think about, if I kill this person, what happens next? So that's always in my head. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Clayton, great fucking quote, brother. You don't have to attend every fight you're invited to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And again, getting out, right? Getting out doesn't mean now you're starting swinging, right? It could be pepper spray. It could be.
So there's distance, right? So now.
Right. Any number of things, right?
So my vehicle is parked. I get out of my vehicle. It's like, whatever you want to do. That's it. She's like, I don't want to fight. You want to fight, but you're willing to fight. Not want to fight. Yeah. You're willing to fight. So it's like, I don't want to fight. Because you're thinking about, and this is stuff you got to practice and train and program in your head. So when you're stressed, that's what happens. She's like, I don't want to fight. And if he keeps coming at you, guess what? Well, now it's position and distance. He breaks the threshold and gets close enough to you. It's the same shit we always try. So opening a door, putting a car apart, opening the door, still posturing. He's got to get close enough to you to hit you. Period. Unless you see a firearm, that's a different.
Yeah, and it goes back to the video that I watched last week. Is that when somebody gets out of their car and they start approaching you, you don't know what they have. The one guy in the video I watched, his hand was obviously holding something in his pocket, right? But you don't know what that is. You don't know what he's holding, right? And so, when somebody gets out of their car and they're coming at you, you don't know what they have, right? You got to maintain that distance. You got to maintain, your safety, right? And the safety of possibly your family and your vehicle,
Yes. Yeah. Well, let's face it, when family's involved, it's a heightened elevation. It's stakes are much higher. It's different. And
Yeah,
also it's like,
de-escalation techniques go a long way, but it's still not
right.
going to solve the problem, right? And
It's
you have to be
also
prepared for it not to.
right. It's also call 911,
Exactly.
wife, kid, whatever. And you're like, okay. And you get out and you're like, you deal with it. Because at least,
Yeah.
and it's, again, how you're positioning yourself, how you look. He said he didn't want to fight. Guys coming at you, now you engage. So, that's where again, I mean, yeah, I get what he's saying, dude. And yeah, especially, yeah, man, some fucking geek is like, that's it, fuck you, I'm fucking fuck you, and they're screaming and they're putting the car in park and they're getting out. Yeah, man, that dude's a tank. You're like, I could just destroy you, and it messes with you because you're just like generally a nice guy, going about your world, but not everyone's like that. And it's an ego thing. And, until somebody gets close enough to you where they can impose your will on you, or close enough, hurt you, or they've got a firearm, then it's, or a weapon, guy comes out, I'm going to react to a guy differently. Comes out with a club or comes out with a knife. Obviously, if it comes out with a gun, than I would somebody who's coming out with a, checking their hands. Please look at their hands. If you can't see their hands, assume that they have a weapon anyway. So Clayton puts, from a principle perspective, I largely agree with this dude, but common sense dictates a bit of strategy and self-discipline. Yes, that's exactly what we're saying, Clayton. You gotta, you gotta be like, okay, he's still there. I'm still here. He's on his driver's side. I'm on my driver's side. He's got a vehicle to go around. Now I can put myself in a position of advantage and deal with him when he comes around. But again, always giving him out. It's like, hey, I don't want to fight. You can, but if you do what you got to do, and then like, screw it. The rest of the stuff is just posturing. It's just somebody, talking shit and swearing at you and calling you names. You're like, okay, do you want to kill this person? Right? Is this what we're talking about? If you do, then all right, well, then understand that there's going to be consequences. How are you going to defend those actions? I can defend him if he runs around the car and starts running at me. Now I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to him. He is coming to me, period. Do not go out and engage him. Make him come to you, because when you're in court and you're like, well, we're both pulled at the stoplight. Couldn't get out. I tried to drive away. I can't. I'm boxed in. I'm like, I said I didn't want to fight. He comes around. I know we're always thinking about the movie line. I'm like, that's running through your head, man. I want to be freaking, what you call it? Shit. Oh my God. Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell's character.
Yeah.
I'm blanking. Jack Burton. Jack Burton. So I want the line, man. I want to deliver that, and I want something I can go tell my friends. Not, I don't want to fight.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
My brother stopped a road rage incident once.
He did.
So yeah, so he was. This is when we were probably like 18, and there was this grocery store next to our house. Anyways, my brother was leaving the grocery store, and there was a big. There was a guy, like an older gentleman in a car getting ready to merge into traffic. There was like this dude in this truck trying to get past this guy because he thought he was driving too slow. And then my brother was behind the guy. And so the guy's like honking on his horn and revving his engine and yelling at the guy and everything. And, my brother's like, I could see this old man is like hesitant to merge into traffic, which is coming pretty quick.
Right.
And so this dude gets out of his car and starts trying to drag this old guy out of his vehicle.
Oh.
And so my brother had his archery gear sitting in his back seat, and he grabbed one of his arrows and he got out of his car and he walked up to the dude and pointed it at his face and was like, we're not doing this. And the guy was like, started swearing at him and stuff. My brother just kept it pointed at his face, and he was like, you don't want to do this. And eventually the guy was just like, and gotten back in his truck. My brother got back in his vehicle. And then, that guy, the old man, he's now a little, tensed up. He gets in traffic and he drives away. Right. And then immediately after, this dude in the truck just spins out and like cuts off a cop. And
Oh,
so then he
geez.
gets pulled over for cutting off
Yeah.
this cop, and my brother
Right.
just drove by and waved at him.
Right, exactly. You know, it's that like, you know, you got like, it's a big world out there. You don't know what kind of day people are having. You know, when somebody's having a moment of stupidity, you don't know if the guy's getting a divorce. Yeah, okay, you know, you should have.
Yeah.
But again, give them, you know, you just kind of give them like a wide berth, and then you're like, all right, you know, he starts coming in. It's like, this is how this is going to end. I guess this is where it ends. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, if like, there's a lot to happen when someone's like, I don't want to fight, and you're like, well, fuck you, you're pussy, blah blah, like whatever. You know, like I just had something like, you know, not 2 months ago, I just started laughing at a dude. Yeah, Clayton's right. Even good people have bad days, right? So I'm like, some guy was like, I'm just laughing. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing any of this. You know, that was like kind of like when the guy started like puffing up his chest. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing any of this. Stop. You know, and he looked at me like, no, I don't care. I'm like, I really don't care about any of this.
Yeah.
You know, this is not where I like, you know, putting my flag over some stupid shit that means nothing to anybody. So on that note, yeah, Clayton, awesome to hear from you, brother. Josh is always great. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We will be back on same bat time, same bat channel next week. Till next time, you know, again, check the links below. Train with us, train with Josh, train with me, train with everybody. You know, go get body armor and don't get shot. All right. Again, like, subscribe if you would. That would be much appreciated. Until next time, everybody, train honestly.